Profit First literally saved my life.
Oh,
And you've probably heard that a lot, but saving somebody's life is a really big fucking deal.
right. It is. It is.
It's big. And I know that sounds a bit, I know it sounds a bit hyperbolic and like I'm exaggerating a little bit, but when you run a business as an entrepreneur, it's your life. It's your everything. And
Yes.
I will never forget the day that Dan Martell, our mutual friend, was like, you got to read Profit First, like get on it, guys. And we were in his program, being mentored by Dan in his SaaS Academy program. And I'm like, look, Dan, this shit is getting complicated. Like, I don't know what to do anymore with all these numbers. And I'm doing my best to be a CEO, COO, CFO, everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, just read Profit First. And I'll never forget, my business partner and I were in our office. We were there till like 3 a.m., man, like just going through it and printing out everything, following all your steps. I mean, all that stuff. So it was like, at one point we had like tears of joy and laughter. Like we weren't sure if we were crying out of like joy or
exhaustion.
So thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that story. It does mean the world to me. It really does.
You probably have a lot of stories like that though. So what I wanted to ask you was like, between all your various books, between Profit First, between Clockwork, which is another one that really, truly significantly has impacted my life and my business, what's like the story that really stands out to you where you're just like, that's so memorable to me, that's so meaningful to me?
Well, it's a little trite. My own, just because I'll never forget it, losing everything. So the quick story, I wrote about it in the book.
You can go into the full version. All
right, so it starts off with
question for you.
Starts off with, I was a dick. I was a big dick. I built some businesses and sold them. I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was so great, Arman. I was like, I'm God's gift to entrepreneurship. I had the Midas touch. I was a big tool. I had just to give you context, I had a house. I moved into the most expensive town I could afford, New Jersey. Plus I got a place on Lanai, the private island of Hawaii. I to do a sabbatical out there. And then I got a Dodge Viper, which I now consider the trophy of dicks. So
we all wanted one though.
Sorry to any Viper owners.
Yeah.
I remember just sitting in that obnoxious car, blah, 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 going up to the bank to deposit yet another fat check I got from the sale of my now second business. I started a third business because clearly the key to success was to start more businesses. So I became an angel investor, launched a collective of 10 companies simultaneously. They didn't complement each other. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just letting good money go after bad. And it took me only about a year and a half. I lost everything. I mean, and not just those businesses. I lost all my assets. I lost my house. I lost everything. Wow. My accountant, he recounted to me. He's like, I never saw someone evaporate wealth so quickly. And I was like, oh. And my daughter, she was 9 at the time, when I came home and said, we're losing our house. And I didn't say it that way, by the way. I was sobbing, snot bubbles. Oh, and we were going to lose our house. My daughter grabbed her piggy bank and she goes, I'll never forget her words. She goes, Daddy, since you can't provide for us, I'll be our provider. It's a 9-year-old girl. Yeah. I
just felt that one, man.
Yeah. I believe in a greater force. And I believe that was of the greatest service to me. Same time, I don't feel in that moment it was great at all. In the moment, the school of hard knocks is bullshit. Like I was angry at myself. I was sad. I was depressed. I started drinking hard and it became a turning moment for me. So I had to find something. That story for Profit First resonates with me because I found Profit First, honestly, out of desperation for myself and fumbled through it and got it. But a couple of stories. One came in just yesterday. Ooh. And this one just stands out. But it is by design too. I compel people in my books to email me because I do read them. I do collect them. I actually have an administrator that filters them. So I collect stories all the time because that's my emotional fuel is words of affirmation and hearing stories. So when you shared your story, I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I can see you and your partner hugging and crying and like, we got this.
It's exactly it.
Yeah, I know. Like, oh my God, we're idiots. We're geniuses. The whole emotional swing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember the entrepreneur's name. I know there's a female musician who's a violinist or violinist. Is a violinist. And she's a freelancer.
Sounds more proper.
Violin, right? She's a violinist. And she went on her own, and the COVID pandemic hit almost immediately. And she's like, all of her contemporaries are struggling. They're trying to get waiting jobs, anything. And you can't even get waiting jobs because the restaurants are closed. She goes, it's pure panic. She goes, I'm emailing you right now, and I'm submitting a tax check for all my taxes paid in full. And there's extra money left over. I'm taking a bonus for myself. She goes, no one that I know is doing this. And I'm a musician.
Wow.
I know. I was like, yes. Yeah. What that points to is that even when times are tough for an industry, there's an opportunity for stability or even profitability. But, you know, on the other side, dude, I hear these stories that just, it devastates me. I mean, some of them I'll read it and just, it rocks me. Some people are honestly suicidal. I can't think of another word. They write me and they're like, the business owns me. I hate my business. I hate my life. I hate my family. I hate everything. It's a resentment. And those stories are tough to hear.
Very.
Yeah. I don't even know what to do in those circumstances. Yeah. It's devastating. And I feel compelled to serve somehow. Yeah. So I hear the range, but the success stories are always a joy. And those devastation stories, I hope that it's similar to our own devastation stories, that's a turning point.
Yeah, that there's a turning point. And I know also firsthand, you know, I've had so many friends come up to me and they kind of dig themselves out of a hole and eventually reach back out. Cause like, you know, entrepreneurs, we mostly hang out with other entrepreneurs. And
yeah. And no one gets us, right?
No one gets us. No one gets us. And to be honest, we truly don't even get each other completely because each one is in their own world with their own set of circumstances. It's quite the journey to venture into. I think Elon Musk called it chewing glass and staring into the abyss is what starting a company feels like.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Yeah, no one gets this. I also get pissed of the axioms or beliefs that are pumped out there for entrepreneurs, like you never give up, bring your A game.
Yeah.
What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? You're better than this. I actually just did a video today. I mean, giving up is okay. You better give up at times. Like if you're that workaholic chewing glass and working through the night and sacrificing life, aren't we on this planet in part to live life? Entrepreneurship is part of it, but should it be all encompassing? Maybe we give up or give pause. I don't know.
That's where for me, like Clockwork was transformative because this idea had been floating around in my mind that like, I am an entrepreneur. It's all worth it, but to what degree? Yeah. And can I today work toward having some form of the time freedom that I'm ultimately seeking in the first place by doing all of this? Like the point of money to me is freedom. And I think it is the point for most people. They get past the items and they eventually go, I have leverage. Right. I can make decisions that are impactful. And now I can optimize for free time. And that's a beautiful thing. But I think we become prisoners of the very dream that we build oftentimes. And that's very sad to me.
I call it the get to give. And what I mean by this is I've always heard that phrase, you have to give to get. You have to give and be of service and reciprocity. But I actually now think it's the reverse, in that we have to get, meaning we have to be in the position of stability and comfort where we have the ability to give. I believe, like our business, we need to get profitable, like really profitable, not for the accumulation of stuff. I went through that. Viper's gone. Listen, I still want to drive a nice car. I'm past the obnoxious phase. I hope. Maybe I'll sneak back. But I think we have to get in order to give comfortably. I see so many businesses that are in desperation to survive, and yet they feel so compelled to be of service. Like, I have to serve this community. They can't afford me, but I have to keep on giving to them. And then they compromise themselves. They go out of business. I really feel that our clients, when it comes to profitability, our clients want us to be profitable. And then they won't say like, can you make more money off of me? But what they will say is, I want the best of you. I want your undivided attention. I want you caring for me when you deliver your service. I want the best product you have to offer. And the only way to deliver on those things is if you're profitable. If you're not making money, it's like a panic to get the next customer in the door. You're half-assing it with this client so you can serve that client. The products, we got to churn them faster, which means there's a compromise in quality on the spot. I think we got to be profitable.
I think that was probably also what you're pointing out was my biggest takeaway. I remember talking to so many people and saying, I kind of had certain components of this backwards. There is this lie that's perpetuated out in the world of entrepreneurship that if you make an impact, the money will follow.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a mistake. I really do. I think that the idea in principle makes sense. But if you don't value profitability just as much as that impact factor or that desire to be a social entrepreneur, you're out of business. You have no ability to serve anybody. And we over-identify with that part of it too much sometimes.
It's like maybe like walking, right? So this is the impact step and this is the profit step and the impact step. And if you just do one, you're actually doing a split and tearing yourself apart. It's funny. I'm writing a new book on marketing and it doesn't come out till the end of the 2021, but I'm studying it. And one of the components I discovered is that no one knows anything about your business and the experience of working with you, your service or your product until they experience it. Therefore, the only experience they have with your business up to that point is the marketing itself. And yet people are like, I shouldn't market, or, referrals is my main marketing source, meaning you're at the whim of your clients.
Right.
And so I see a lot of these kind of half-baked ideas. Just have impact and build it and they will come. They won't. Don't have to market. Just provide extraordinary service and the word spreads out like a virus. It won't. It's a two-step process.
So what does that look like? And what has the journey been like so far, just doing the research for this new book? I'm super curious about it. Obviously, I'm going to read it, tell you about it.
I hope you do. I hope you love it. I hope it serves you. So, all right, so I'll tell you about it. I'm all pumped. So part one is I found for small business that most marketing is extremely ineffective. The vast majority of small businesses rely on referrals and they're actually proud about it. Like, oh, I get all my business, 90% of my business is from referral, which is nice that you have some clients that had a positive service experience or whatever to the point where they feel they should refer you elsewhere. But if that's your marketing stream, that's dangerous because the client is in control of your marketing. That client says, not going to refer you more business. They can
control, no reliability, not
throttleable.
Yeah. Right.
So I got to fix that problem. What the book title is Get Different. And it's a call to action to differentiate in our marketing. I also found that the biggest struggling point or sticking point for effective marketing is best practices. Most businesses say, well, I'm doing referrals, but I also follow best practices. Everyone does those email campaigns or the freemium or whatever the buzzwords is of the day. Well, inherent to best practice is that there's a common approach. The human mind is really, really effective. The most effective thing it is doing is actually ignoring. Our mind is really good at disqualifying ignoring. Like right now, vying for your and my attention, if you just look around your desk around you, are hundreds or thousands of things.
Oh, it's going off.
Yeah, hey, right. Anything. I got a bottle of water here. I could spend, if I really wanted to, hours considering, the label, how they make it, how they get this color, why this name, blah, 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 blah. It can go on forever. But our mind is designed to ignore all the stimulus so that we can give attention to something specific. Well, how do we get past the ignored stage? And what it is there's only three ways past it. The number one, most effective way to get not ignored is to be a threat. So if you and I are talking and I take out a gun out of my pocket and say, we got to have a heart-to-heart conversation right now. You're paying attention. Yeah, you're paying attention. But here's the deal. It is a known threat. The response to threat, it's an amygdala response, it's the base of our brain, is avoidance, protection. You're going to punch me in the face if you have an opportunity. You're going to deflect that gun. You're going to run away, whatever it is to save yourself. But the goal is to avoid threats. So we pay attention to threats, but we avoid them. So threats don't work. The second way to get into the brain is through opportunity. So if I came with a wad of cash and said, hey, we're going to have a conversation. This is for you. And it's $1 million. I got your undivided attention again. Now, Opportunity, it's of benefit to you, but there's also risk associated with it. Because what's Mike's agenda here? Why would he have $1 million? What's the hook? So now you're qualifying me and you're coming in tentatively. And I am taking on massive risk. That's all my money on the table here. If you decide to walk away with it, I'm screwed. So that's a very risky approach too. The third and optimal way to get notice and guarantees your attention every time is different. When I come and I put a box on the table and say, check this out, I think we need to have a talk. Now it invokes curiosity. It's an unknown. The human mind's wired when something is unexpected, we have to qualify it because it could be a threat, risky, could be an opportunity, grab it, or it could be ignorable, but we don't know. And the ultimate acid test of this is next time you go to your mailbox for junk, you'll let junk mails in there. It's look how fast we go through it. It's like ignore. We can pick out junk mail in milliseconds.
Good analogy.
We don't even think about it. But the second there's one like, thin envelope with a check in, it's like, this could be something. And then when there's another piece of maybe mail that's in a box or some strange thing, it's like, what is this? That's a curiosity invoker. So the best way to market is not the best practice. It's to do the unexpected, what no one else is doing.
Have you thought about how you're going to market the book itself to get a little meta on you?
Yeah. To do some things that are different.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are doing some things that are different.
I mean, I know it's not for a while, but
yeah, it's not till September, right? So we're recording this 6 months prior, but I have one thing we're working on, which could be radical. But there's a whole formula. So first to be different, but the second thing is you also must be attractive. And that's a key component. So different doesn't necessarily mean outrageous. I could dress like a clown and walk down the middle of the highway, throwing books in the air, going, waka, waka, everyone gets a book, Stop the highway. It'll be on the news. But is that attractive? Do people want to buy a book from Clown Boy? Maybe not. So you must differentiate, but also be compelling to the audience. So that I'm working on some ideas around that. And you can only tell through testing. So we're actively testing ideas right now. Because at the end of the day, you can ideate ways to do this, but it's only by measurement that you know if it's working or not.
One of the things I love that you said, and I think you've said this in a couple of your books, is that you basically want to be known as the greatest small business author of all time. And I fully, honestly believe that you already have done that, but I know you probably have so much more you want to do. And one of the beautiful things about all your books and your whole approach to this is that you're providing the tools that you yourself need. You're creating the resources by doing the work itself to make yourself a better entrepreneur, and then therefore sharing those tools with others, creating profit and being of service at the same time. It's beautiful. And you have this perfect niche that you've put everything into. What are your thoughts on books today in 2021? What are your thoughts on, a lot of people are still trying to, they're asking themselves if traditional publishing is dead. This is honestly more of a selfish question as well. I'm working on my first book.
That's awesome.
So it's like self versus traditional, Scribe, companies like that exist right now that I know really well, are doing beautiful things.
Yeah.
So that separation of prestige distribution has just completely collapsed.
It's collapsed. Yeah. There's no prestige in mainstream.
What do you think?
Yeah. So, to give context, I put out there as my identity for myself, because it sounds dickish again, right? I'm the most significant small business author of the world, whatever. The phraseology I use is I'm the most prolific small business author of the century. It's my intended responsibilities as I define it. Yeah. And I have to lean into that to be that. And I think I have a long way to go, but I must prove that to the world, which is really just, honestly, it's just proving it to myself. But that's the big stake in the ground, right? And it keeps me moving forward. So I've evaluated this extensively. So there's 3 forms of publishing. There's mainstream publishing, Simon Schuster, Penguin, Harvard. There is what's called hybrid publishing, which is companies that you pay, but they serve the publishing model. They in turn give you more royalties. So they're not betting on the success of your book. They're making their money off of your investment, $25,000 or $30,000. That's where they make their money. So they're going to churn through books, but they'll help you make a good book. And if it crushes it, you take all the wins.
Right.
Mainstream publishers, they're taking a bet on you. They need your book to win. So it's a different approach. They give you advances. And then self-publishing is where you go it alone. Now, I've self-published. Self-published means you do every responsibility.
All of them, right?
All of it.
Yeah.
Everything from you write it, you get a copy. You could try to do it all yourself, but don't. You get a copy editor, proof editor, content editor. There's always developmental editor. Like so much stuff. Printing. I ran an assessment, like the dollar for dollar. It is. I found a break point for me, but it is really hard to argue against the new hybrid publishers.
It is.
I actually think almost all indicators point to that. If you take out the ego factor of a logo, and let me tell you, all the readers have taken out the ego factor. They don't give a shit.
Right.
The only person left is the author himself. Like,
nobody knows, man. Nobody even knows what some of these imprints are anyway.
Yeah.
They're like, no one's heard of some of the imprints that are so prestigious. Yeah.
It means nothing for the reader. So the only factor left is the advance. If you can get an advance substantial, it's now the cash, the present value of cash flow. Is the money I'm getting today from a publisher so substantial that it offsets the potential for this book for the next X number of years? And that is the threshold. I went into my most recent negotiation. I don't have an agent. Almost all authors with mainstream publishers have agents. I think that's a mistake too. I'm kind of a contrarian. I went in and I knew my exact number. And if I didn't get this number, I told the publisher, I'm not trying to be a dick or to take advantage. I'm like, this is a fact. It makes more financial sense to go with a hybrid. And they said, we acknowledge that and we'll give you that number. So
that's what you're doing with the most recent one.
Yeah, I'm with my mainstream publisher. It's Penguin Books. I love them. The experience is extraordinary. But honestly, I think it would be extraordinary with a good hybrid too. Penguin has taken on the risk that I asked them to take on. Yes.
Awesome. So then the other books previous to this where you did them on your own, you packaged them on your own?
No, they're all with Penguin. I did my first two. I did a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. I went to Penguin and so forth. And they're like, who are you? First book. Right. I self-published it. I then went with this is the story. First book was Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. They said, you're no name. We're not going to publish you, which that was 12 years ago. It's even harder today. Yeah. So I self-published it. The magic number is 10,000 books. If you can sell 10,000 individual hardcover books, not like you buy 10,000 of your own copies or sell it at an event, 10,000 people go on Amazon and buy your book. In the nonfiction space, that's substantial, especially if you do that within a year. Well, I did it. And I get a call from the editor at Penguin. He goes, his name was David. He goes, dude, we were watching Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Nice job. You want to do one with us? I'm like, yeah. And I did one with them. And then a backstory that some people don't know, and not many people really care. I then came to him and said, I got it even better. I did a book called The Pumpkin Plan. It's done, It's done well. I then said, I got an even better book. It's called Profit First. And they're like, they go, no one needs another accounting book, Mike. Okay. I'm like, this is not an accounting book. This changed the game for entrepreneurs, and no one needs it. I self-published Profit First.
Because then I saw it's with Portfolio.
Now it's with Portfolio. Yeah. They came back to me 2 years later, I think it was, after I self-published it and said, we think we made a mistake. And I said, I think you did too.
I mean, that's the best way. And I've said the same thing to others as well, as like, if you really believe that your book deserves a place in the traditional publishing world for whatever reasons, get the leverage, get those 10,000, 50,000 sale, whatever it takes, get their attention and go to them. And then, you can also expand your distribution.
Make them regret it.
Yeah,
make them regret it.
Exactly.
I believe the self-publishing or hybrid is the best. I think for me, at least, hybrid financially for almost all authors.
You make way more per copy as well, right? Way more.
You way more. So a hybrid, you can get on your ebooks 80, maybe 100% of the royalty distribution. So, so say an ebook sells for $12, and say through Amazon, and Amazon yields for the author $10. I'm just picking up numbers here. You get $10. You do it through Penguin, you're getting $3. They're taking they take double what the author gets roughly to the mainstream publisher. So that's a pretty shitty deal at face value. But now if the publisher says, hey, we'll give you $1 billion, I'm picking, a crazy number, but $1 billion today, Well, okay, maybe that offsets it. So there's some number between 1 billion and 0 where the number flips. And I figured it out for myself.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Um,
curious if you, let's follow up after, but I'm curious. I'll share that with people, like what your formula is for that, because I've been creating content around the traditional book publishing journey because I'm in it right now. I'm doing literally this morning interviews with a publisher before we spoke, and I'm just sort of documenting the process, and I've been calculating the same thing. So if you have like a formula or
well, I'll give you the real
for
basic.
people,
I have a whole
I will.
spreadsheet.
I'm
I
sure.
do, but I'll give you the basic. If you can anticipate as best you can, first time authors is a little bit harder, but how many books you'll sell over over a 2-year period,
Mhm.
hardcover books, and multiply that by $3, that is a reasonable advance. So if I'm going to sell 20,000 books over 2 years, a
Mhm.
$60,000 advance in the nonfiction space is actually reasonable.
You said over a 2-year span?
2-year span. Yeah.
2-year span.
Yeah.
Got it.
So if you're going to sell 20,000 hardcover books, there's other factors. Now, the publisher doesn't consider that factor. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's the number. The
Right.
publisher will say, what's the potential this person is going to move books? What's their historical proof? And if you're a first-time author, you're at a disadvantage.
Yes.
What's your platform? You may have never written a book, but you have 1 million followers
Sure.
that when you say jump, they say how high. They
Right.
put value in that. They also care about your title or if you're a doctor from Harvard, you get an advantage over Yucko the clown here.
Right.
And if you have a story, like you land an airplane in the Hudson, Scully or Sully, whatever his name was, like the day before he does that, you can't get a book deal.
Yeah.
The day
Right.
after, you got a book deal.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, those 20,000 copies at $3 a pop, you're getting more, like you said, $6 to $8 a pop on your own. So like,
yeah.
It's really just a matter of like, yes, it is nice to get in advance and not have to front the money, but like, it's really an exchange of short for long term. Like, I think in your world, you're getting significant advances now. Most people are like going to get pretty small advances. Like, why not just front the money, be
Totally.
a little patient, and you'll earn more within
Totally.
a year, probably
Totally.
versus the 2-year mark. So,
Totally. And historically, if you rewind in time, books used to be only self-published. Like Benjamin
Right.
Franklin's Penny, whatever his book was called.
yeah.
That's a self-published book. Like books were self-published, then the mainstream publishers. It's just a natural transition. I don't know if mainstream publishing is going away right away. For me, I hope it doesn't, but it's definitely transforming, and self-publishing is probably a good start.
Well, Mike, I want to work toward wrapping up, man. This has
Yeah.
been super awesome.
Yeah,
I think one final just kind of meta question for you is, you've been through a lot, man. You've been through hell. You came home. You had to tell your daughter, we don't have a home anymore. I mean, these are some really significant, depressing, challenging moments in life. You turn to drinking. Today, what are the things that make you happy? What really is putting you in a place where you're constantly exuding this joy in everything you do?
Wow. I've aligned my work with my purpose. And so this is like what we're doing right now is joy. Time's sneaking by. This is it. But the interesting thing, it's brought balance too. I spend more time with my wife and my children than I ever have. I go do my stupid fun things. I play guitar poorly, but I do my fun things. And it's this balance that's come about by living purposefully,
There is a way. You're proof of it, man. Thank you so much. I really,
Thank you,
really
brother.
appreciate this. Can't wait to get this out to people. Awesome, awesome conversation.
I
All right, bro.
appreciate you.
See you.